In the very first episode of this show, a beautiful woman moves in across the hall, and every man in apartment 4A reacts. Leonard falls in love on the spot. Howard turns on the charm, and Raj, sweet gentle Raj, opens his mouth to say hello to Penny, and nothing comes out. Not a word, not a sound. His own throat closes on him, and he stands there silent, while the most important door of his life swings open right in front of him. That silence, in the very first scene he is ever part of, is the entire story of Raj Koothrappali, and we spent 12 years laughing at it. Welcome back to 4A. Get settled in, because today we have to talk about the saddest man this show ever produced, and the dark truth about why Raj was actually, completely, all the way down to the bone, alone. Now let me say the obvious thing first, so we can move past it. This is not about him being the comic relief. It is not the accent jokes. It is not the jokes about him being soft. It is not even the drinking. That is the surface. Everybody sees that. The dark truth runs underneath all of it. Because here is what nobody wants to say out loud about Raj. Out of all 7 of these people, out of this entire found family of scientists and the women who love them, Raj is the one human being who wanted one thing more than anything else in the world. He wanted to be loved. He ached for it. He was built for it. And he is the only one this show looked at, decade after decade, and decided to leave with no one. And then it played a laugh track over his loneliness so you would not feel the weight of it. Let me tell you where I am coming from. I have watched this show start to finish more times than I would say at a dinner party. And for years, I thought Raj was just the funny one, the sidekick, the guy who whispers the joke into Howard's ear. And then one day I started counting. I started counting how many times Raj said out loud that he was going to die alone. And then I started counting how many times the show quietly proved him right while the audience laughed. And I could not unsee it after that. So here is the lens. Here are the 2 ideas I need you to hold for the next 15 minutes because everything hangs off them. The first one is the voice. Raj had selective mutism. It is a real anxiety disorder, and the show actually names it. Leonard's mother, the cold psychiatrist, diagnoses it on screen. Raj is physically unable to speak to a woman he is not related to. And I want you to really sit with what a cruel, perfect metaphor that is, because I do not think the writers fully understood what they had written. Here is a man whose single deepest desire is to connect with a woman, to be chosen, to be loved, and his own body will not let him make a sound in front of the very thing he wants most. His loneliness was not just a circumstance, it was wired into his throat. He could not even ask for what he needed. The second idea is the pairs. Look at the architecture of this show. Strip away the physics and the comic books, and what is the Big Bang Theory actually about? It is a romance machine. It is a factory for couples. Leonard and Penny, Howard and Bernadette, Sheldon and Amy. The whole engine of the series is the slow, satisfying click of 2 people finding each other over and over. And in a show built entirely out of 2s, Raj is the odd number. He is the remainder. He is the one the equation cannot divide. Hold those 2 things, the voice and the remainder, and let me walk you through it. Let me start with how the show chose to handle the mutism, because the solution they wrote is honestly stunning when you look at it cold. A man is so paralyzed by anxiety that he cannot speak to women. And the fix, the running gag for years, is alcohol. Pour enough drinks into Raj, and suddenly the words come out. So week after week, the comedy is this gentle, sensitive man getting drunk in order to become a person who can talk to a girl. And it gets darker because it turns out he does not even need the alcohol to be real. In one episode, his friends slip him non-alcoholic beer and he talks just fine because he only has to believe he is drunk. His confidence was never real. It was a story he told himself with a bottle, a whole personality rented by the glass. And the laugh track loved it every single time. Today, a lot of people watch those early seasons and wince because a man who can only function socially with a drink in his hand is not actually a joke. It is a portrait of someone in real pain, dressed up as a punchline. And running underneath all of it season after season, there is a line Raj says in a dozen different ways. I'm going to end up alone. He says it as a joke, he says it drunk, he says it stone sober, he says it at weddings, on Valentine's days, every time another friend pairs off and leaves him one more person further from the center of the room. The show always lets the laugh track catch it, so it lands soft, like a bit, like a thing to chuckle at. But go back and actually listen to how many times this man tells you directly to your face that he is terrified of being alone forever. It is not a runner. It is not a quirk. It is a person telling you his deepest fear over and over and over to an audience that was trained to laugh every single time he said it out loud. And here is the part that genuinely gets to me. His own friends used the deeds, ice order, against him. When Raj is finally talking, happy included, Howard will sometimes reveal that the beer was fake just to shut him back up, just to put the silence back on him. And in scene after scene, Raj cannot tell the joke himself. He has to lean over and whisper it into Howard's ear, and Howard says it out loud, and Howard gets the laugh, and the audience claps for Howard. Think about that as a picture of a person's whole life. Raj has the funny thought, Raj has the feeling, and someone else gets to be the one who says it and is rewarded for it. He was a man living his entire social life through other people's mouths. So what does a man like that do? He finds workarounds, and every single one of them is sadder than the last. At one point, the show has him date a deaf woman because if she cannot hear him, his silence is not a problem. Read that again. The one relationship where his disorder would not matter is one where the other person literally cannot hear his voice. And how does it end? She is only interested in his family's money. Even the workaround betrayed him. And that brings us to the money, which is its own quiet tragedy. Raj is rich, genuinely rich. His father back in India is a successful doctor who drives a Bentley and had servants in the house. Raj grew up with everything, and he spends the whole series performing a little fantasy of being a humble, struggling guy until his friends remind him about the Bentley. But look at what that wealth actually bought him. It bought him a life on the other side of the planet from his entire family, who he talks to through a webcam, a flat little screen, a mom and dad shrunk down to the size of a laptop. He had every single thing money can buy, and he was starving for the one thing it cannot. The Bentley could not sit next to him at dinner. The servants could not love him. And then, somewhere in the later seasons, even that webcam window broke. Raj's parents, the one couple he had grown up watching, the template for love he carried around in his head, fell apart. They divorced on screen, in pieces, delivered to him through that same little laptop. His father started seeing other women. The marriage that was supposed to be the one fixed point in his world dissolved while Raj watched from another continent, able to do nothing but stare at a screen. So the most romantic man on the show, the one who believed in love more than anyone alive, lost even the example of it. The blueprint got torn up in front of him, and he was left aching for a thing he had never once seen actually last. And because being alone terrified him so deeply, Raj could almost never live by himself. Watch the pattern across the seasons. He moves in with Howard. He clings to the group. Later, he ends up living with Stuart, the saddest man in the comic book store. Lonely men keeping each other company so that neither of them has to sit in an empty apartment at night. Raj filled his space with other people because the silence of a home with nobody in it was the one thing he could not survive. The man could not even be physically alone in a room, let alone alone in life. And if you saw my last video, you already know I called Sheldon the black hole at the center of this whole universe, the one everyone else bent their lives around. Well, Raj was one of the bodies caught in that orbit, and he had the least of his own underneath him to hold his place. No partner, no family on this continent, no home of his own he could even stand to sit in by himself. The group was not just Raj's friend circle, it was his entire gravity. Take the gang away from Sheldon, and Sheldon still has his work, his routines, his certainty, his unshakable sense that he is right. Take the gang away from Raj, and there is nothing left underneath at all. Just a quiet apartment and a webcam and a dog. And here is the cruelest layer of all, the one that ties it together. Of everyone in this group, Raj is the most romantic. He is the most emotionally open person on the entire show. He loves love. He loves a candlelit dinner, a good cry at a wedding, a sappy movie, cooking a beautiful meal for someone he cares about. He is tender in a way none of the other men even know how to be, and the show treats that tenderness as something to mock. It pokes at him for being soft, for being sentimental, for wanting romance too much. And then having mocked him for wanting love more than anyone, it turns around and gives him less of it than anyone. That is the trap the writers built around him without ever quite admitting it. They laughed at him for being a romantic, and then they refused to let the romantic have a romance. And it is not as if he did not try. He tried so hard. There was Lucy, the painfully shy girl he met right as he was learning to speak. Anxious people who somehow found each other and went on dates where they sat in a library and texted back and forth instead of talking because that was the only way either of them could stand it. It was tender and strange and real. And she bolted, dumping him over text because meeting his friends was more than she could bear. There was Emily, who lasted a while and then did not. There was Claire, there were others, a whole parade of women who drifted through and kept right on moving. And in between all of it, Raj played one very specific role in that friend group. He was the confidant. He was the soft one everyone came to when their own relationships hit a wall, the one with the emotional vocabulary, the one who actually understood feelings. Raj talked half the couples on this show down off the ledge during their worst nights. He was everybody's shoulder, and when Raj himself was the one breaking, when Raj was the one who needed someone to sit with him, the camera usually just cut to him crying alone or crying into the fur of his dog. He held everyone. Almost nobody ever held him back. Even the one time the show put Raj in bed with one of its leads, the drunken night he and Penny ended up together, it was never written as a romance. The creators have said it outright. It was a stunt, a way to shake up the group. And the morning after was played entirely for cringe, a thing to be mortified about and quickly buried, not a door to anything real. Raj was useful to the plot for exactly one night, and then he was quietly filed back under comic relief, where the writers always seemed to feel most comfortable keeping him. Now I owe you the other side of this, because I am not here to lie to you, and there is a real counter-argument. You are going to say, hold on, Raj grew. He overcame the mutism. He finally talks to women without a drink. And the show ends on a note about self-love, about him learning to be happy on his own. The actor himself said it, that maybe the one person who wanted love so badly needed to learn to love himself first. And you know what? That is true. There is real beauty in that idea, and I am not going to take it from you. But sit with the timeline for 1 second. Raj gets his voice back in season 6. That is the halfway mark of this show. After his girlfriend Lucy dumps him by text and breaks his heart, the dam finally breaks, and for the first time he speaks to a woman, to Penny, completely sober, sobbing, saying out loud that he thinks he is unlovable. It is genuinely one of the most moving moments in the series. He is cured, he is free, he has his voice, and then he has 6 more entire seasons, more years of story. And in all that time, with the one barrier finally gone, the show gives every other character a wedding, a marriage, a baby, and it hands Raj a dog and a stranger in the next seat. So yes, self-love is a beautiful message. It is also exactly the thing you say when you simply could not be bothered to write someone a love story. The growth was real, but the loneliness at the end was not a choice Raj made. It was a choice the writers made for him. And the writers, to their credit, have basically admitted it. When you read what they have said about the finale, there is one detail that I cannot stop thinking about. As they planned the last episode with everyone flying to Sweden, they realized they had a problem. There would be an empty seat on the plane, next to Raj. So they decided to fill it with a celebrity guest star, a fun surprise, someone interesting to sit there. I need you to really hear what that means. The emptiness of the seat beside Raj was a known production problem. His aloneness was so total, so structural, that it showed up on a logistics list. The writers looked at the plane and thought, We have to put somebody next to Koothrappali because there is no one in his life to put there. They had to cast his loneliness. So let me take you to the moment it all comes to a head, because there is one, and it is quietly devastating. In the final season, Raj does the bravest thing he has ever done. He stops waiting for love to fall on him, and he goes and arranges it. He asks his father to help him find a wife the old way, and he meets Anu. And it is awkward, and it is uneven, and it is not a fairy tale, but here is the thing. Real feelings actually grow between them. It becomes something. And then Anu gets offered a job in London, and she asks Raj to come with her. And for one shining moment, the most romantic man in the entire show is standing at an airport, ready to chase love across an ocean, ready to fly to another continent and propose, finally, going after the thing he has wanted since the first episode. And his best friend Howard races to the airport to stop him. Howard, who has a wife and 2 kids waiting at home, tells Raj to let the plane go. Tells him not to settle, tells him the right girl is still out there, somewhere, waiting. And Raj, trusting, hopeful, always hopeful, listens to him. He lets her board the plane. He lets it go. The right girl never came. The writers have a tidy explanation for all of this. They say the show began with 4 single guys, and that to honor the bones of the series, it felt right that one of them should still be single at the very end. And as a piece of structural symmetry, fine, I almost understand it. But notice who they chose. Not Sheldon, who actively shoved people away for 12 years. Not Leonard, the lead. They looked at the 4 of them, and they assigned permanent solitude to the exact one who wanted it least, who feared it most, who had spent the entire series quietly begging the universe for the opposite. Out of 4 men, they handed the ending about being alone to the one for whom being alone was the actual nightmare. That is not honoring the bones of the series. That is just the cruelest possible casting of a sad job that nobody wanted. The man who already had everything Raj wanted talked the loneliest man in the group out of the one love that was actually standing in front of him in the name of a someday that this show was never ever going to deliver. And I do not even think Howard was being cruel. I think he genuinely believed it. That is what makes it hurt. Everyone around Raj kept telling him to wait for something better because from inside their own happy couples, it was easy to believe better was coming. It never was. And so the final image of Raj Koothrappali is not a wedding. It is not a kiss at an altar. It is a man in a beautiful tuxedo on the greatest night of his best friends' lives, watching Sheldon and Amy collect a Nobel Prize, watching Leonard rest his hand on Penny's pregnant stomach, watching Howard and Bernadette beam at each other, and beside him, there is a chair, and in that chair, the show has placed a famous stranger who has to remind him out loud that this is not a date. He claps for everyone, he is happy for everyone, and he goes home alone to the one love story the show actually let him keep. A little dog named Cinnamon, because Cinnamon, in the end, was the only one written so that she could never leave him. That is the dark truth about Raj. Not that he was the funny one. The dark truth is that he was the one who wanted love the most, and the show found his longing so easy to laugh at that it forgot to ever answer it. So let us go back to where we started. Back to that first episode in this very apartment, Chapter 4A, where a man opened his mouth to greet the woman of his dreams and could not make a single sound. By the end of the series, Raj could say anything he wanted to anyone, sober, confident, free. He spent 12 years learning to speak. He climbed out of a silence that had its hands around his throat from the moment we met him. And when he finally, fully had his voice, when he could finally say everything that was in that big romantic heart of his, the show looked around and realized it had never bothered to give him a single person who would stay to listen. Raj Koothrappali finally found his voice. He just never found anyone who would stay in the room to hear it. If you have been sitting here in 4A with me through all of this and it is sitting a little heavy in your chest right now, then good, because it should. So tell me down in the comments, was Raj's ending really about self-love and growth like the show wants you to believe? Or did they just quietly give up on the one character who deserved a love story the most? I read every single one of them. And if this one got to you, go watch the one I am putting up next about Howard and the family that broke him long before he ever met Bernadette, because the man who raced to that airport has a darkness in his own story that we never really talk about. I will see you back in 4A.